Hello, and welcome back to Mayday, a show about the show. I'm your host, Trevor May, ex-Major League Baseball player, zero-time All-Star, as you know. And I'm here to talk about baseball with y'all. How's everybody doing today? Hello, everyone over at the Foul Territory Network YouTube channel that seems to have 15,000 more subscribers every single time I go live. How am I falling so far behind? It feels bad. No, I'm just kidding. I'm very happy. Thank you guys, everyone, for subscribing to both channels, both Trevor May Baseball and Foul Territory. But it's very nice of you. Keep going. Keep it going. They're almost to 2,000. Let's keep it going. Come on. Come on. I hope everyone's doing well. We have a jam-packed show for you today. I will be discussing the reliever's worst nightmare here at the top of the show, and I will be joined momentarily by fellow reliever Adam Ottavino to talk a little bit about that, and we'll get into the news, which includes the Rafael Devers situation, a couple of managers getting fired, and a bunch of updates on a bunch of different games, and we will talk a little bit about what some of those bad teams are doing, and then we will check in on the top 20 most valuable contracts and how they have panned out so far. I did some math for you, okay? Some math that I hope is correct. No, I did. I double-checked. I double-checked my work. Don't you worry. So, yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it because the faster we can get to Otto, the better. All right? Let's get into our first subject. That is, well, it's Mayday. You know, that's the show name. The season killer. Raise your hand. I don't know how you're going to do that, but type a 1 in the chat if you know what a season killer is. It is the bane of every reliever's existence, and I would like to let you know what it is because I used to literally lose sleep over this, and I got a lot of examples of what it actually means. So, being a reliever, I've talked a lot about it here on the show, right? I've talked about how relievers are valued and how I disagree with how relievers are valued, how WAR is a terrible stat for a reliever for many reasons, but there's some pros and cons just to being a reliever, okay? There's a reason that everyone starts out as a starter, wants to be a starter as long as possible, and then as a function of a last resort, decides to become a reliever because it keeps you in the major leagues for the most part. But some of the few perks of being a reliever are you only have to get a few outs. So going out and going 1, 2, 3 or just like avoiding giving up a run, in theory, is easier, but we'll talk a little bit about how it's not actually true. You have to work out and condition like a little bit less often than a starter. That's just because you don't know what days you're going to pitch. So you go through stretches where you just get to conserve all of your energy for going in the game. That can be considered a perk, especially if you're a lazy person that doesn't like to run like me. And you also don't have to conserve energy. You can go out there and you can just, in the words of my AA pitching coach, Stu Clyburn, kick up dust. You can just go out and throw as hard as you can. That's one thing I really liked. Those are the 3 main perks, though. I would say maybe there's a half perk in there that as a reliever you might get an opportunity. But I think that the reason you get an opportunity is because of a con, not a perk. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So, but the cons of being a reliever, you get paid the least of any other role on the field, like by far. Relief pitchers are the least paid guys on the whole team, on every team, right? If you have a really good closer, he might be like 5th on the team in pay, maybe. Right? You might get a closer paid, but nobody else is getting remotely as much money as anybody else. A great reliever contract's like 3 for $25. If you get 3-year deals reliever, you are doing it. Doing it. You're paid the least, and for the casual fans, the fans that just kind of don't watch as much baseball, that maybe don't value relievers very much, you're either just doing your job, which is throwing 1, 2, 3 innings, or you're blowing it. So you're either whatever, he's just doing what he's paid to do, or you suck. That sounds a lot like a kicker to me. That's why relievers are just the kickers of baseball, in my opinion. I said that a lot. I'm going to say it again. There's also no above and beyond. Like in the same way that you're either just doing your job or you're terrible, it's kind of hard to get any recognition for doing anything. Like you have to like not give up a run for 4 months, which is really hard to do. And that's the only way anyone notices you, basically, if you're not a closer. Now, closers are in their own little group, and we've talked a lot about that, but I'm just talking most relievers. 7 of the 8 guys out there are in this bucket. And the support for you can vary wildly. It can literally be day to day. I'm going to show you some examples of how quickly things can turn around on you, and a great season can turn into a horrible season in a blink of an eye. And it's jarring, and it's really, really, really stressful. Okay, and it'd be like you could do those 20 straight scoreless, and then you give up runs in 2 outings, and everyone just like, those 20 don't matter anymore. It's what have you done for me lately? That is very much baseball, but it's double that for relievers. And like I just said, the big one is a couple bad days can ruin your entire season. Thus, the season killer. Now, let me give you some examples of this, because recently we had a few outings out of some relievers, 2 of which happened on the same day, which was crazy. I didn't know that when I even came up to this. But May 6th of this month, May 6th, actually that is this month, isn't it? May 6th of this year, this season, was a nightmare for 2 for sure, but 3 relievers, okay? The first example, Ryan Presley came into a game against, here, I'll just show you. Ryan Presley enters the game against the Giants in extras and proceeds to give up 5 hits, walk a gentleman, hit a gentleman, and give up 9 runs without recording an out. I'm not kidding. This wasn't like, oh, I'm getting hit around, or I'm giving a couple ticky-tacky hits and then a granny or something. This is like hit, 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 hit. For a guy that has been as good as he has been for as long as he has been good, that can be jarring in a way where you're like, I don't give up this many hits. I don't think I've ever given up 5 hits in an inning. And he gave up 9 runs, 8 of which were earned. And there was even a wild pitch in there, which I believe is the next pitch here. So this is all happening, and there's no outs. And it's just through the hole, through the hole, through the hole, to the point where you've never had less confidence. You might have negative confidence. You're miserable out there. And he walks off the mound. As you can see, he's not very happy there. Walks off the mound, knowing that his ERA went from a low number to an extremely high number. Specifically, after this outing, Ryan Presley's ERA went from a 2.08 to a 7.62. This was his line. 0 innings, 5 hits, 9 runs, 8 earned, 1 walk. He hit a guy, 7.62 ERA. He had like I just mentioned, he had a 2.08 going into the game. So now, going into the game, everyone's like, Presley's having a good year. After the game, he's like, Presley's the worst pitcher on the planet. That's how this stuff happens. That is what we call a season killer. He is going to be working on getting that ERA down for the rest of the year. If he gets it down to like a 3.5, he'll be like, W, I did it. I did it. I had this. This was my season in 2023. I started with like an 11, and every outing I was like, ooh, it went down, 2/3 of a run. Oh, it went down 1/10 of a run. Oh, ooh. And you just try to throw 0 after 0 after 0. And it's very hard to do. That was a big one. On that same day, 2 people got hit with that bug when San Diego took on the Yankees. And San Diego led 3-2 going into the 8th inning or 7th inning. And Adrian Morejon took over and started. He was one of their best lefty pitchers, so it was 99 from the left side. And things happened really quick on him, okay? He goes up, first pitch he throws, hit to Jason Dominguez. That's not what you want to see. You want to see a guy hitting one of your off-speed pitches for a double the first pitch you throw, it's a nice pitch too. You're like, oh God. Then you go up and another hit to Volpe, up the middle. Uh-oh, things are going poorly. This is not very fun. I believe there is a walk in here. There's a double. They score a couple runs. Then he walks the bases loaded, and eventually, Austin Wells takes him. Not him actually. Then Wandy Peralta came in. Then he walked in a run. So Wandy Peralta inherits the bases loaded. Then he gives up a double, and then he gives up a single, and then he gives up another. Then there's an error at third. So every pitcher is not having very much fun out there. And then the big swing, a grand slam to the Austin Wells. What do you do? What do you do with this? And this is their outing. Look at the bottom here. Wandy Peralta, 6 runs. Hello? Where'd my camera go? Interesting. Sorry about that, guys. My camera came unplugged. Anyway, we're back. Look at this. 6 runs. 4 to Mortejon. That's 10 runs in 1 inning. And their ERAs went from 1.56 to a 3.57 for Mortejon and a 1.35 to a 5.14 for Peralta. Unfortunately, Peralta has given up 4 runs in his last 2 outings. What's that take him to? He is a 7.04 now. 3 outings ago, he had a 1.35, and now he has a 7. And he's going to be worrying about that for the rest of his career, rest of his year. It can be all one swing. Mason Miller gives up this walk-off grand slam to Bowers. Stowers, sorry, not Bowers. Stowers. 4 runs right there. Ends the game, walk off, gives up the maximum number of runs he could have given up, and his ERA went to a 5. He has struck out 30 in 15 innings, but he has a 5 ERA. Is he bad? No. Did he get it season killered? A little bit. One of the worst ones I've ever seen, I saw live, was my friend Trevin Hildenberger. He had the bases loaded, with the game's tied, and he gives up a long drive to Salvi Perez, hoping that stays in. It hits the top of the wall and goes over. So instead of just giving up a single and 1 run, he gives up 4 runs to end the game. That's 2 inches gave him 3 extra runs on his ERA for the year. Season killed. Basically, that's the worst case scenario, and that is a season killer. So what I'm trying to say is be kind to your reliever. It is the difference between the number of runs you can give up. Basically, it could be the difference between a few inches and your season being ruined for a relief pitcher. So you just want to pitch the next day and get back on the horse. And if you have 2 or 3 straight bad days, that could be it for the rest of your season. Wandy Peralta literally went from one of the better relievers in the bullpen to I hope I don't get released in 3 outings. That doesn't happen to any other position on the field except for relievers. And they just so happen to be paid the least. Unfortunately, though, I have a guest today that was also a reliever and can speak on this a little bit. Let's see if we got him in here. Adam Ottavino, there he is. Otto, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. Hopefully you heard my little diatribe about season killers. You yourself spent a lot of time out in bullpens. What is your experience with seeing your ERA go to a million right at the beginning of the year, and how often do you think about trying to get that down after that point?
Oof, what a topic. I pitched 727 games in my career, and there's 3 that stand out as being epically bad.
And you remember them?
Kind of, absolutely. I had a 7 spot, 6 spot, and 7 spot in those games. And if you go look at those seasons, 2012, 2020, and there's another one with a 6 spot. Basically, it's what torpedoed the ERA. So it's really tough, but not as bad if it happens in April. I don't know if you would agree, just because you have the rest of the season to possibly grind it away. But yeah, I mean, it's the equivalent of a hitter going like a 0 for 200. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't think anybody understands that. That's how devastating it is.
It's the equivalent of a hitter going 0 for 200 in 1 day.
Yeah, maybe 10 minutes.
It could be over, because I just showed the Presley outing from the other day. He only threw 26 pitches.
Yeah.
He threw 26 pitches and gave up 9 runs. Like, that's one of those ones you're like, get me off the field right now. I don't know what's happening. someone else has to try to do this. Yeah, it's miserable. So do you remember in those outings? Just to kind of follow up. Did you get any outs in them at least?
The first one I had 2 outs in the inning and no runs in, and it was bases loaded, 2 outs. This was in San Diego, 2012, September. I had just decided that I had a good season. I had just patted myself on the back, and then it went with the bases loaded and 2 outs. It went like single, 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 grand slam. So yeah, I didn't know how to really digest that one. And the rest of my career, I never was proud of myself until the last out was thrown. That was the lesson. And then the one in 2020 was in Buffalo versus Toronto, 7 Ernies, no outs recorded. Yeah, that was it. I remember that night saying, well, there's just no time to recover this. There's only 60 games in this season, so we're just gonna have to be a team player from here on out.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to be very clear that we try to make the case. We're taking that one out when we're going for other contracts and stuff. Because I remember I had to do that. There was like 3. I was like, take those 3 out though. It was amazing. For the other 60, it's just, it took me to it's the difference between having like a 2 and a 3.8 at the end of the year sometimes, which is a very different season, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So to switch gears real quick, and we won't harp on that. We don't want to get us both kind of upset thinking about the dark days. Let's talk a little bit about Rafael Devers in that situation.
Sure.
You were a Red Sox 2021. You played for Alex Cora and with Rafi. Has this whole I appreciate him being candid, but has this whole thing kind of surprised you a little bit? It feels like it came out a little bit out of nowhere. Neither one of these guys, or at least Rafi, hasn't had a reputation of saying stuff like he is, or coming and saying it with his chest. So did this surprise you a little bit?
I would say a little bit, maybe a little less so after I was there in spring training this year, and I felt that the vibes were off a little bit with Rafi. This is only the second year of Breslow with the Red Sox, and I think that's kind of where this rift really has started. When they signed Rafi, if you go back in time, when they signed Rafi to his long contract, he was disgruntled at that time because they had not signed Xander, they had traded away Mookie. Basically, all of the core players from the 2018 team that won the World Series were kind of gone. I think Rafi was kind of like, is this really a place I want to be? Are we going in the right direction? And, from all reports, there was a lot of promises made to Rafi during that negotiation, including playing third base for a while. Now, at the time, Craig Breslow was not the GM. It was Chaim Bloom. So this year in spring training, I did think it was a little weird that initially they talked about moving Bregman to second when they signed him and keeping Rafi at third. Alex Cora seemed to have a lot of nice things to say about the way that Devers played defense last year and that he was improving. And then that all kind of switched on a dime, and where they basically said, don't bring your glove anymore, you're going to DH. So I understand a little bit that he was like, hey, what about this conversation we had 2 years ago? But to his credit, he kind of got over that. He embraced the DH role. I think Big Papi talked to him, kind of smoothed it over a little bit. And he started having a nice year this year after he got out of the gate slow. He's been playing really well lately. And then I think this situation was interesting as well. Alex actually kind of said from his point of view, he wasn't going to ask Rafi to play first base once Costas got hurt. And then we find out 24 hours later that there was a discussion with Breslow, and it seems like Devers' main issue is the communication with Breslow. So maybe there's something off in that relationship. But yeah, it's been a little awkward to begin with this season, and then I think this is just another chapter in it. I'll be curious to see how this one actually plays out in a couple weeks.
It's definitely interesting, and I think I played with Breslow. At least I was in the clubhouse with him for a whole year when I was rehabbing Tommy John when he was on the Twins in 2017. And for someone to butt heads with him is. Doesn't make sense to me, just because he's such a easy to talk to person and very thoughtful but it comes down to when you're a GM and you want to look at your team, you want to look around and be like, okay, I want to be able to move some pieces and I don't want to be stuck having to work around something that could be done better. And I understand that point of view, but I also understand hey guys, I put my glove away, don't do it to me again. Like I already made the adjustment. Don't ask me to. I'm being the highest paid or he was the highest paid guy on the team, at least year to year. But like, you know, that guy is not the guy you move around the field, but his defense has not been really even league average. So it's weird. I agree with both sides.
I mean, I think two more things to add to this. I think number one, like having watched the interview in Spanish and having spoke a little Spanish, I don't think the translator did a perfect job. I think we've seen this last year with Jorge Lopez with the Mets, where it wasn't quite as bad as what it came out as. I think he said, you know, it's a tough transition and right away it's not going to look good. So it kind of got translated as it's not easy for me to make the switch and that's why I don't want to do it. But I think he was kind of saying like, if I'm open to it, it's not going to be great to just like do it right away. So that's number one. And then number two, you know, with the Breslow part, you know, and this is something that I think about a lot, like if I were to be in that type of position, you know, it's not so much that you're not easy to talk to, it's that you're the one now who has to have the tough conversations, right? So it's like, it's only year 2 of this, and that's like a skill that definitely needs to be worked on. I think you can attest to as a player when you're talking to management, how direct, how honest they are, but also their level of compassion and the way that they seem to actually care about your career definitely comes into play when there's nuance involved like this. So I don't know, it's just like it's a new relationship. They probably hadn't had as much interaction as they probably should have leading up to this type of event. And then, you know, you kind of end up in the mess you're in.
Absolutely. I've seen some media float some possible solutions to the situation. So here's what I'm proposing to you, and I want to see which one of these you think is more likely. Or maybe they're not. Either one of them can be actually have both happen, but we'll see. Do you think he actually plays any first base at all, or do you think it's a commitment to DH? Or, as thrown out by my buddy Chris Rose and a lot of other people, what about a possible trade situation? Do you think a trade would even be on the table just in terms of, you know, he's playing third base somebody else, he's a left-handed stick. I mean, everyone could use, I feel like corner pop is one of the most valuable thing right now. I think they could bring in crazy number of prospects. I don't even know if anyone could afford that, frankly. But do you think that's even in the realm of possibility?
I don't think it'll happen right now. I think the team is competing. That's a big bat to lose where you have, I mean, he's there to hit at the end of the day. Like his defensive numbers, if we're being fair, they haven't been kind to him. Even last year when they talked about there being some improvement, you know, he's definitely one of the lower ranking third basemen defensively in baseball. And I think that would be a roadblock a little bit in the trade too. Like he's getting paid an awful lot of money. He is really more suited to DH at this point. You know, and as Ron Washington said in Moneyball, you know, how hard is playing first base? It's incredibly hard. And I think I think sometimes we underrate the difficulty of it. I do think there's a chance he plays a little first base. I mean, Rafi's a team player. He is. I know that it doesn't seem like it right now because he's a little disgruntled, but he is a team player. I think ultimately he is all about winning. And so I could see him, you know, saying, you know what, all right, I'll strap it on. I'll go do my best over there, and hopefully we can work and get better. But again, like it's only been a few days. This is still a fresh wound, and I'm curious to see how they rebound. The trade idea, I think, man, like you're just talking about reconstructing your whole lineup. You'd have to get a lot back. It would have to be like a large contract for a large contract in my mind. So I'm not sure, you know, where you're going to find that equal value, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's just a media thing. It's interesting, right? Will it happen? Probably not. That would be too much, too interesting to see. Well, Otto, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, man. Thank you for your insight. We appreciate you, and can't wait to have you on again.
All right, thanks, T.
All right.
I'm good.
That was Adam Ottavino joining the show for the first time, and probably not the last, just so you guys know. That's if he is down for that. All right, let's move on to the news. Let's get a little bit more nitty gritty because there's more than just Devers, though I do have my own opinions coming in. Let's get into the news. All right, let's get into some heckin' news. Quite a few things happen here going into the final week of spring training as we get ready. News. I'm going to try to develop my skill at getting quickly through these things and just hitting them. All right?
Let's get into the news.
It's time for the news. All right, moving on to The news. Rafael Devers, as we talked about, met recently with owner John Henry to discuss his disillusionment a little bit with the organization's suggestion that he switch positions once again. As Otto just mentioned, and as I fully agree, I feel like committing one time to moving yourself out of a position you played in to do something else should be enough, especially when you're the guy, the $300 million man. You're not the guy usually. You're like, you sign that contract, you're like, okay, I thought I was done with this. And I understand that frustration. It's early in the process. Otto also made a great point that the tone coming through an interpreter is hard to convey sometimes. And we had that sound bite from spring training when they're like, hey, Rafi, will you DH? And he just goes, no. Like he just said it in English and then laughed. He gave that was the energy in which everything else he is saying in Spanish is being assumed he's taking now. And I think that's a little bit what's happening as well. I think just people are in a little bit of a tough spot, but I think overall it's going to end up being okay. And he has been raking as a DH. It's one of those things that once you get good at DHing, if they ain't broke, don't fix it, especially if you have other options. They got lots of prospects. First base, there might be other guys with skill sets lined up to fill that gap. I believe it's Romy Gonzalez playing there right now mostly, I think. I did see him play there one game, so correct me if I'm wrong. But he's currently on a $10-year, $313.5 million contract. Tell him what he's doing and let him stick to it. I agree with that. But in other news, he's raking again. So since he started with the 16 Ks and 28 bats or whatever he did at the beginning of the year, he has absolutely torn the cover off the ball. So old Rafi is back in other news. He is back. Oh, Romy was hurt, actually, I've been told. Abraham Toro and Nick Sogard are platooning at first base for now. All right. That's not a bad stopgap, but unfortunately, their first baseman, Tristan Casas, he's not coming back this year. So they're going to have a long-term solution at some point. In game news, Kyle Schwarber hits 2 home runs to tie Aaron Judge for the league lead in home runs with 14, extending his on-base streak to 46 games. Zach Wheeler, the ace of the Phillies, also struck out 8 over 7 innings, and the Phillies took down the Guardians 3-0. Schwarber has 16 home runs, 37 RBIs, and 33 runs during his career-long on-base streak. 46 games, nothing to shake a stick at. Pretty impressive. Schwarbombs left, right, and center. The Jung brothers. I said Young. The Texas Rangers took down the Detroit Tigers, the AL best record Detroit Tigers. Who saw that coming? 6-1 yesterday. Marcus Semien hit a 2-run homer, and so did Josh Young. He was there on Mother's Day. His mom was in the place, and his brother, Jace Young, was the third baseman for the Tigers. So we got Jace, Josh Young. It's weird. I want to say Jung because they would have great alliteration. Opportunities were missed. Honestly, they should have named him Yosh. Yosh and Yace. Yosh and Yace Young. I think that's what it should have been. Yeah, I'll grow up. I'm sorry, guys. The Twins are on a heater. Woo! Where's Shay in the chat? I want to see you. Shay Lars. The Twins are on a heater. They took down the Giants to win their 8th straight game, and Deshaun Kiersey Jr., pictured here, single winning run in the 10th inning on Sunday as the Minnesota Twins beat the San Francisco Giants, a very good team, extending their winning streak date. The Giants did get Duran in the 10th by scoring the guy that started on second, but then they scored 2 runs in the bottom of that inning to win the game. Good for them. Royce Lewis snapped his 0-for-36 streak with an RBI single that tied the game 4-4 in the 6-2. He needed that as well. So good things. We are hockey sticking up. The trend is going in the green direction for the Minnesota Twins. Aaron Judge, this video game player, is continuing to put up video game numbers as he is hitting .409 after 4 more hits in a 12-2 win over the A's yesterday. He's hitting .409 in May. And he might hit 60 homers. Both of those things are incredible on their own. The fact that he's doing both is ridiculous. Unfortunately, Luis Severino was on the other side of the mound, other side of the field, taking on his old team for the first time, and things did not go well, tying a a career worst 8 runs in 4 innings. But the Yankees take down the A's, and they have come on up to Seattle, and I will see them on Wednesday live. I'll let you know how it goes. Clayton Kershaw has now made 5 rehab appearances, and he is ready to come back, he is very, very close. Struck out 2 and allowed a pair of runs, 2 hits and 2 walks, and which would be his final rehab start with AAA Oklahoma City through 57 pitches across 4 innings. Not too bad, and he should be available in his next rotation for a team that, though they were very deep going into the season, they have lost a lot of starting pitchers, so he should be able to help them out. When Kershaw takes the mound for the first time, his 18th big league season, he'll tie Zach Wheat and Bill Russell, 3-time All-Star shortstop, and not the NBA Hall of Famer, Bill Russell, a different guy, for the most in franchise history. So the most seasons with the same team, the LA Dodgers, will be Clayton Kershaw, tied with 2 others, and he deserves it because he is one of the greatest pitchers of our generation and maybe of all time. So congratulations to him. It was great to see him pitch again. Speaking of the NL West, the worst team I've ever seen, and on track to be the worst team in the history of baseball after another team already broke that record last year, Colorado Rockies have relieved Bud Black of his managerial duties in Denver. Bud Black, fun fact, is actually from Longview, Washington, which is right next to my hometown. So I'm double sad to see this happen. After 9 years there, it's finally come to an end, but they're 7-33. At some point, something has to change. A fire has to be lit somewhere. But here's a little quote from Dick Monfort, as the CEO and owner, chairman, and CEO Dick Monfort said about him. He said, "Our play this far this season, especially coming off the last 2 seasons, has been unacceptable. Our fans deserve better, and we are capable of better. While we all share responsibility in how the season has played out, these changes are necessary. Will we use the remainder of the 2025 to improve where we can on the field and evaluate all areas of our operation to properly turn the page in the next chapter of Rockies baseball?" Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Unfortunately, on Saturday, the day where they lost 21-3 to the San Diego Padres, Rockies GM Bill Schmidt, this is right before, Bill Schmidt backed Black, saying, "Buddy's doing a good job right now. We're showing up for work and playing with effort." Hours later, the Rockies were beat by 20, and then he was fired the next day. We'll discuss this more in a moment. As we will discuss this gentleman, this is Derek Shelton, and he is the now ousted former manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. After 5+ years, they started 12-26. They have to make a change as well. We know about their owner, Bob Nutting, which we will talk about in a moment. But known as a player's manager, everyone has great things to say. I had him as a bench coach in Minnesota, and I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with all those things. He is a great man and a very good coach, and I think he'll land on his feet somewhere. But it just goes to show you why. Like, what was the plan? What did you guys expect? This is how this team is built, and we will discuss that in just a moment. We'll get go into depth on that after a word from this sponsor.
FT fam, let's talk about the HOF app. If you're into parlays, but sometimes you're missing the mark more than you would like to, can I introduce you to some serious analytics on an app that is easy to read and comprehend? And I'm sitting next to a man who knows how to place a parlay.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is breaking down a parlay. With this Hall of Fame app, there's the situations that you'll find easier to do. It's very helpful in understanding, and if you like, gambling, sometimes this is really good to know. So get on there, get on that Hall of Fame app and check it out.
Yeah, this is info that will help you, okay? With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 5-star reviews, safe to say that HOF has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. For a limited time only, FT listeners can get a 7-day free trial and 50% off their first month when they use code FOUL at checkout. Download the HOF app on iOS or Android. Enter code FOUL, and you're all set.
Make smarter bets. All right, without further ado, let's get into a little bit of mace-splaining with our main subject of the day.
Rapsodo and a hot guy
all tell you this information. Paul Skeens has added 2 pitches to his arsenal going into 2025. No! Don't do it! Don't!
Buckle up. It's time for some maysplaining.
Oh, hello. Welcome to Maysplaining. Today's subject, what are the Pirates doing? What are the Pirates doing? What do they want? Who are they? How are they? When are they? Those are the questions we are going to try to ask and answer today. As I just mentioned, Derek Shelton, manager of 5+ years, was relieved of his duties, and I believe Don Kelly's taken over for him, which ex-player should maybe he was lined up to be the next guy. I'm not quite certain, but I want to determine how much of it had to do with Derek and what Derek did, or how much does it have to do with the Pirates and what they do all the time, or maybe more aptly, what they don't do. All right, they stuck with Derek Shelton for 5 years. Okay, 5+ years. He had a record of 306 and 440. Okay, I don't believe there was a winning record in there. At no point was there a winning record. Okay, I don't think that's fully his fault. I think that they have an issue. They have lots of big glaring issues. They do things that good teams do well really poorly, and they don't seem to focus on it too much either. And we're going to get a little bit more into the weeds. So managers have varying amount of influence on wins or losses, depending on the organization. Okay. Some organizations are run very, very heavily from the front office and from the analytics department. Some are run very, very heavily from the manager, and most are some sort of combination of the two. The number one thing you need, though, is a good rapport between all those levels. You are comfortable communicating, overly communicating, and making sure that everyone's on the same page and that you're doing the things, you're carrying out the plans that you guys set forward before the game started, before the season started, or whatever it is. By all accounts, that is what's happened. Unfortunately, in that chain of command, he is at the bottom. So if someone needs to take a fall, someone needs to be the martyr, it's usually the manager. And in this case, it's Derek Shelton. And that's the only way I read this. So what's the plan? And here's what I think the plan is for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Here's what I think the Pittsburgh Pirates exist for under their current ownership. And that is just to make a good, solid, consistent amount of money for Bob Nutting. It's a good investment. That's it. That's all that's happening here. And I'll tell you why. This is Bob Nutting. Yes, that is what he looks like. Bob comes from a family of newspaper owners. His great-grandfather bought a newspaper organization in 1890, and it's been in the Nutting family since. So, if you guys want to talk about inherited wealth, holy McMoly, okay? Their normal business practices are to own smaller publications, local publications like newspapers and magazines, and now they do video media a little bit more, like probably regional sports networks, regional TV stations, and to do so with and get a solid amount of money. They've actually come under flack for not investing in those businesses because what they want is just to get it to profitability and then just sit it and just make sure they're getting profits. Okay? There's some people that are obsessed with scaling. That is not Bob's MO. That's not the way that him and his family operate business. So it makes sense that going and investing into their baseball team isn't really something they're good at because they don't really do that in any of their other business. It's all about acquisitions and then adding that to the income stream. That's a viable business strategy. It just isn't very good for sports, right? Sports teams aren't great. Like, it's not very fun for the fans to have a sports team treated that way. So let's go over some statistics in the Bob Nutting era. Bob Nutting took over this team as the principal owner in 2008. Since he took over, the team is 1,306 and 1,632, good for a .445 winning percentage. That's about the same as Derek Shelton's. So the same thing keeps on happening. Even though they've been mostly objectively bad, with the exception of 2013 to 2015, I believe, the prime McCutcheon years, they have not made the playoffs or really been near it in a while. In those 17 years, with the general not very great play, they've only changed GMs once. One time. They've had one new GM in 17 years of losing. Does that tell you that not losing is a priority? No, I think it's just comfortability. I like loyalty. Loyalty's great. I feel good for those guys that they're not worried about losing their jobs all the time. At least that's one positive thing. But the fan base deserves some winning sometimes, or some, I don't know, representation or show that you're willing to make some decisions and make some changes here. So they don't go get people to, they're not willing to change what they're doing. It's about doing the same thing over and over again and keeping the status quo and just shuffling people around. Other teams do this as well. Colorado Rockies are one. Dick Monfort says, hey, we need to be better, whatever, but he just keeps hiring the same kind of 5 people and shuffling them in circles. I'm happy for them, but sometimes you got to bring in unique outside perspectives in order to get better. You just do. I talked a lot about Jerry Reinsdorf last year with the Chicago White Sox. It's a different way where he thinks he knows everything. He wants to have input when he just doesn't understand how to build winners anymore. That's okay, but that's when you defer. That's his issue. But again, he was just shuffling Kenny Williams and the same guys around for years and years and years because he liked them and he didn't want to have to do the extra work to change the process. These teams that have struggled to change their process or bring in any outsiders to give any sort of outside information are struggling. The team that's probably resisted the longest is the Cardinals. But the Cardinals now brought in Kyle Bloom and have tasked him to be the GM in the future too. So they're slowly making changes, but these teams are run this way, like kind of mom and pop shops, smaller markets. I understand, but if you want to be successful, you have to take a couple shots once in a while. Okay, so these are the top 5 free agent contracts that Bob Nutting has ever given the go-ahead. Okay, the most they've ever paid a free agent. This is an extension. This is someone coming from another team to their team. The most they've ever paid any free agent is 3 years, $39 million to Francisco Liriano, not Lindor, in 2014. That was 11 years ago. Second is Ivan Nova, 3-year, $26 million. Russell Martin is the third highest, 2 years, $17 million. Carlos Santana from a couple years ago in 2022, 1 year, $6.725. And Andrew Heaney is the 5th highest of all time this year with a 1 year, $5 million. Are you serious? You have to sign a free agent. You have to. Anyone. Like someone. 3 year, $39 million. Are you kidding? That is ridiculous. And, I mean, Liriano wasn't too bad, at least in the first year of that, but it didn't really pan out. So, number one problem with Bob Nutting. They don't sign anyone in free agency is literally off the table. Like they're like, no one in free. No, we're not going to do it at all. No, I don't want to. Okay, I guess that's what we're doing. Okay, but Bob Nutting and free agency is one big issue. You know what the second big issue is? They don't trade very good. Here's a bunch of trades they have done in the Nutting area. You tell me if they've gone well. Chris Archer for Travis Glasnow, Austin Meadows, and Shane Baz in 2018. I would say that one didn't work out for, well, I would say whoever has those 3, because all 3 of those guys, Austin Meadows now not playing, Shane Baz is getting his first full season with Tampa, and Tyler Glasnow's with the greatest team on the planet. None of them are with the teams they're with, well, Baz is, but where's Chris Archer? Not great. Garrett Cole traded for Joe Musgrove, Colin Moran, Michael Feliz, and Jason Martin. Joe Musgrove had some good innings there, but I would say Garrett Cole going over and becoming a Cy Young caliber pitcher immediately would be an indictment of the Pirates and a big check in the Astros side of things. They also traded Andrew McCutcheon away for Brian Reynolds and Kyle Crick. I would say this one's okay. Brian Reynolds is now their highest paid player. So, and they have McCutchen back. So this one worked out okay. Jason Bay was traded in 2008 for Andy LaRoche, Brandon Moss, Craig Hansen, and Brian Morris. Okay? And Nate McLouth in 2009 for Charlie Morton, Jeff Locke, and Gorky Hernandez. Now, Charlie Morton, Jeff Locke, Gorky Hernandez all had a little bit of big league time, none of which was super productive for the Pirates. Morton was okay, but not really a big deal. Other than that, nothing. It's all little stuff. These are the biggest attempts at making a blockbuster trade, and none of them have panned out. So, not great at making trades, and they've had 2 GMs this whole time. So it's the same guys making the decisions. But they also don't draft very well. Okay? Here's the last 10 years of first rounders. Now, one caveat. Paul Skeens is in here. But I gotta be very clear here. Paul Skeens was duh. Like, I'm not giving anyone credit for knowing Paul Skeens was gonna be Paul Skeens. Like, that's crazy. He's insane. He's insanely good, and it surprises absolutely no one he's this good. But here are their last 10 years of first rounders, okay? We have Connor Griffin and Levi Sterling in 2024. 2023 was Paul Skeens. Thumbs up there. 2022, Tamar Johnson, still an opportunity to be a very good player. Thomas Harrington. Henry Davis, 2021, he is the backup catcher right now. Nick Gonzalez is their current shortstop in 2020 with Carmen Lozinski, who is currently starting pitching for them. Quinn Priester and Sam Asiani were 2019. 18 was Travis Swaggerty and Gunnar Hoglund. Hoglund is now up with the A's. Shane Boz is 2017. Will Craig was 2016. And 2015 was Kevin Newman and Brian Hayes. Okay, so let me give you some statistics on these. Out of everyone I just mentioned, there's 16 players. They've gotten 23.7 B WAR. Just WAR, actually, just WAR in general, MLB WAR. That's almost 24 wins out of every first rounder in the last 10 years. Just so you know, that's on the lower side. You want to hit half of them. 7 of the 16 have never appeared in a big league game for the Pirates. Of the 9 who have, only 4 have a positive WAR. Of everyone in this list, the 4 guys with the positive WAR are Paul Skeens, Brian Hayes, Carmen Lozinski, and Kevin Newman. Everyone else has produced less than replacement level at the big league level. Now, is this drafting or is it development? Well, it's probably both. Because, like I said, the same regime is making the same decisions and have it in the same places. Let me be very clear here. I'm sure they're very nice people, right? I'm sure they work very hard. I'm sure they have ideas. I'm sure they have the type of thing, they're doing their best with what they have, right? Doesn't help when you have an owner that you just simply cannot go to for resources. You can't. He's just not going to do it. Okay? So you kind of have to figure it out on your own. So you got to get creative. You got to garage sell it a little bit, right? But still, other teams that are in that same situation somehow can figure it out, but they can't. And sometimes maybe you just got to go hire some analytics people for a lot less money than players are. If you don't want to spend money on players, you have to spend money on staff. It's just the way that it is, on tools, on forward thinking, and they don't do that. They just don't do it. So unfortunately, Pirates fans, nothing is going to change until Bob Nutting stops treating the Pittsburgh Pirates like one of his newspapers. But he's a billionaire, and his family's been very wealthy for over 120 years. So if you think anything's going to change, it probably isn't. And I'm sorry to say, it is what it is. So what are the Pirates doing? I don't know. We're just chilling. Yeah, I hate to see it too, and I wish we had more engagement on their end. All right, guys. We have 11 minutes left here in hour 1, and I want to really quickly work through our today's Go in Deep subject. I'll tell you about it in just one moment. are now going deep. And today in Going Deep, I had a great idea. I saw this question somewhere else. I think it was just like a podcast, and they were discussing how many of the biggest contracts now in the league now with Soto's contract and everything, how many of these big contracts are performing up to the amount of money that they are being paid, okay? We have some metrics we're going to. I'm gonna try to give a little bit of context around like off the field stuff, marketability stuff, like Shohei, for example, has got a bunch of that stuff going on. But for the most part, this is gonna be balanced out in just an on-field performance way, okay? And there's some caveats, there's some things you need to know going in on how these numbers were calculated, because there's a lot of numbers here, okay? This is the important stuff to know. Free agency values one WAR at about $7.5 million. So 2 years ago was about 6.7. So this is calculated based on all the free agents that were signed that year and how the market changed. And then this last year, it was like 8.9. It was 8.9 because of Soto, okay? So what I did was let's go right in the middle of those numbers. I don't want to go to 9 million per WAR because that'll make not everyone's being valued like that. Juan Soto is, okay? So I went to 7.5 to keep it a little bit general. 7.5 is kind of how teams sign free agents. You'll get one WAR for $7 million. If you get a one WAR player, position player, you'll pay him $7 million a year. Like that's kind of what the markets are overall. A little less, a little more for certain situations, but that's just the number we're going to operate with. When I calculated when I divided their AAVs or divided their money by the number of years, I counted 2025, we were 22% through. This is as of yesterday, 22% through the season. So this year is 0.22 years, and then 2020 was prorated, so they got that much money. They got 39% of their money. So we're gonna call it that as 0.39 years too, not a full year, okay? The AAVs were adjusted for deferrals and bonuses and stuff. There was some math going on behind the scenes in these, and I got these from some reputable sources. So if some of the numbers seem a little bit off, it's okay. The conversation still can continue because there's nothing that's like super nominal like choices. So what I did was I gave a rating from 1 to 10, with 5 being they're doing exactly, they're breaking even. Both sides are doing fine. And then everything above 5 is the player being very much worth it. Like it was a good investment, and below 5 was a not so good investment, okay? This is the top 20. Actually, it's the top 19 because A-Rod got snuck in there for some reason, all right? So all that, everyone understand? Let's go right into it and let's quick fire these. Let's start with number 19. Number 19, we have Fernando Tatis Jr., 14 years, 340 million, 24.29 million AAV. And in the time since he signed it, which I believe was these are in reverse order, so give me 1 second. When he signed this in 2021, he has produced 17.3 BWAR. We're gonna use BWAR because that's what actually happened on the field. Actually, I'm gonna make this a little bigger. There we go. All right, so what does he grade out at? What is 17.3 BWAR based on the amount of time he has played? Well, that's an 8.5 as he is getting 4.7 average BWAR. This is also only half a year when he was suspended because he wasn't paid for half that year, so that only counted as a half year. He's worth $35.25 million in value, which gives him an 8.5 out of 10 because that is $10 more million than he's being paid per year. Now you get it. So let's quickly go through this. Number 18, Giancarlo Stanton from the Marlins, 13 years, $325 million. Comes out to about 24.29 million because he was done in 2015. And he has, since he signed that, put up 23.4 BWAR. That's 2.4 average BWAR for 18 million a year. He is being overpaid at this moment, and he's currently hurt. This is just because of a ton of injuries, okay? I know he's been great in the playoffs. That's why this isn't a 1, right? He gets a little bit of a boost from his value in the playoffs. But let's be honest, he has not played near enough games. He's only played, I think, 1,000 games over this time. Not great. So, but I don't think it's a disaster either. I just think it's like, yeah, like there's still time for him to make up with this, right? He has 2 monster seasons with good WAR. That number goes to a 4, and now he's making his money, right? He just needs to average a little bit more WAR. Though 2.4 is not that, like, there's been much worse precipitous drops. Number 17, Bryce Harper, 13 years, 330 for 25.32 million AAV, but he's put up 24.2 B WAR. All right, look at those statistics. That's pretty good. He's been fairly healthy, 765 games over that time, 159 home runs, 917 OPS over that time. That is good, and an MVP. So he's pretty good. 7.9, 4.3 average B WAR, good for 32.25 million value. I would say Bryce Harper, really quality sign for the Phillies, and he's the face of their franchise, which boosts him even more. He's marketable, and also he's now a social media freaking god, so he's crushing it. Number 16, Bobby Witt Jr., 11 years, 288.8, 26.25 million AAV. He signed this before last year. He's got 12.1 B WAR. He is averaging 9.9 B WAR, which is worth $74.25 million. Yeah, he gets a 10. Bobby Witt is working out. Number 15, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. 12 years, 325, 27.08. He has 3 B WAR so far, 2.4 on average, $18 million value. But that's just because he missed a lot of time last year. Now he's throwing really well this year, and his WAR is, I have a feeling by the end of this year, this little 4 number that I gave him a 4 rating. At the end of the day, at the end of the season, he will be in the positives. I think that's going to work out. I just think right now he just needs a little more time, but that is the way that this is going to work. We got to be honest, right? Number 14, Trey Turner, 11 years, 300 million, 27.27 million AAV, 7.5 B WAR over the time of his contract so far. What is that good for? That's a good average. He's 3.5 average B WAR, which is about what he's been. Literally, like every year it's a 3+. Good for a 25.5 million value, which is exactly what he's making, which means breaking even. He's okay, they're okay, he's been solid, and that was a good pickup. I think if you break even, then you give him a positive. Number 13, Mookie Betts, 12 years, 365, good for 30.42 million AAV and 25.3 B WAR. That's a 6 average B WAR a year, 45 million AAV value. That's a 9.8. Getting $45 million of value. That, and he's moved all over the field. He's just a great player, man. He's just a great player. That, and he's a good bowler. But he's just been wildly consistent. So I would say that one's working out. Manny Machado with the San Diego Padres, 11 years, 350. He re-upped this in 2023. And since he re-upped, that 7.5 B WAR and that 31.82 million AAV. This is a 4.9, slightly below, because he's averaged about a 3.4 average B WAR since he started. But again, there was some injury in there. So he's got a 4.9, slightly below average for a 25.5 million value. But again, on the up and up, and he is the leader on the team, which gives him a little bit more value. Number 11, Rafael Devers. He has been in the conversation quite a bit lately. Let's quickly do these. 10 years, 313 million. Good for 31.35. He's had 5 B WAR since. That's 4.1 average B WAR, and that's about average. He got a 5 rating for Rafael Devers. Number 10, Corey Seager, 10 years, 325. Good for 32.5 mil AAV, 17.5 B WAR. Again, this contract was during the year they won the World Series. Let's say 5.5 WAR a year, good for $40.5 million value, which is more than he's being paid. That's an 8 out of 10. A really solid pickup for Corey Seager, and he continues to be, when he's healthy, one of the best hitters in the major leagues. Now we're going to quickly go through the top 10. Francisco Lindor is our number 9, 30.4.1 million a year. He's put up 19.7 B WAR. That's 6.1 B WAR a year, $45.75 million a year in average. That's an 8.4 out of 10. Lindor is working out. Number 8, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. signed it this year, so take this with a grain of salt. He's going to be paid $35.71 a year. He's got just under 1 with 0.9 B WAR this year. That's going to come out to a 4.1 if he keeps doing it all season, which will be 30.75, slightly below average at a 4.4. But that's only if he produces at this level, which I believe he will continue to get better. Mike Trout's number 7. 35.54, 21.6 B WAR over those years. That's only 3.4 because he's been hurt all the time. 25.5 for a 2.8 out of 10. He's probably the most disappointing one in this list. I think a lot of people agree with that, including him. But that said, when he's healthy, it's disgusting. If he puts together 2 good, healthy years, he shoots right back into the positive. But so far, It's been a loss for the Angels. Number 6, Garrett Cole. Take this with a grain of salt as well, because I factored in this season's going to be 0, but he's being paid. So he's getting nothing for this year, so this is going to skew this number a little bit. So don't yell at me, Yankees fans, but it's true. 36 million, 19.8 B-WAR, 3.7, 27.75 million value. He's slightly below average because he's only averaging 3.7 right now. That's with this year missed, but next year he shoots up. Top 5, real quick. 3 years, 120 for Alex Bregman, 40 a year. He's already got a 2.4 B-WAR a month into this season. That could be a 10.9 WAR if he keeps it up. If he goes at this level, he's going to get a 10.9 this year, worth $80 million, aka double what he's making. That's a 10 out of 10 for Bregman. He's working out. Number 4, Aaron Judge, 40 million also, 18.6 B-WAR over his contract so far. That's 8.4 on average. $63 million value, which is $23 million plus. That's also a 10 out of 10 for Aaron Judge. And our top 3, Zach Wheeler, 3 years, $42 million a year. He's got 1.4 B-WAR this year. That's going to take him to a 6.4, 48 million over 42. That's a 9, baby, 9 out of 10 for Zach Wheeler. Juan Soto is going to make him 51 million. He's got 1.7 B-WAR this year, which is surprising. That's going to take him to a 7.7. He'll have 57.5 at the end of the year in value. That's a 7.5. He's actually overperforming his contract, believe it or not. And number 1, Shohei Ohtani, $7 million a year, not including the deferrals. I don't know why that didn't get included this time. It just didn't. He's already got 11.4 B-WAR during this contract with the World Series under his belt and a 50-50 season. The guy's a legend. 9.3 average B-WAR for a $69.75 million value, which is technically below what he's being paid every year. But with the deferrals and the fact that all of Japan wears his jersey every single day when they go to sleep and when they wake up and when they go to work and when he's making them a lot of money, and he is very worth it. That's a 9 out of 10 for Shohei Ohtani, and he hasn't even pitched yet. And that is the contracts and how I think they're going right now. Let me know in the comments whether or not you hate these or you love them, which is much more likely. Without further ado, though, I'm going to switch over to the Trevor May Baseball channel and thank everyone over at Foul Territory. I'll see you guys in just one moment after this quick little break.